If you have been diagnosed or are thinking that you may have borderline personality disorder or bipolar disorder, hear me out. Leslie Wells, Connection Coach. I help individuals heal, thrive, improve, repair, and connect more deeply in their romantic relationships. I do have a degree in psychology. That is my background. I've spent a lot of time counseling people on the therapy side in private practice. And I work with psychiatrists. I've worked with over 200 psychiatrists, and I continue to do so today. And one of the things that I've noticed is there's a lot of really good psychiatrists out there, and then there's a lot that sort of miss the mark. And I've seen a lot of misdiagnosis around these two disorders. And so I want to go into further detail and let you know something that you may need to be aware of. So bipolar disorder is really sort of defined, and I'm not a psychiatrist, but it is characterized by episodes of mania and episodes of depression, or mixed episodes, which means you're experiencing both at the same time, which is very, very confusing. So episodes of mania, a lot of times you'll see risk-taking behaviors. You will see people that really need a lot less sleep. They're extremely energized. They have racing thoughts. They can be agitated or aggressive. They can sometimes have increased self-confidence and feel really, really good about themselves, like they're sort of at the top of the world and they're their best self in this elevated mood. It's almost like if you imagine somebody on a stimulant with the type of energy that they can have, followed by depression, which of course loss of interest, feeling worthless, useless, very sad, in the dumps, not being able to get up and participate in life as they normally would. They can experience self-harming thoughts whenever they are in their depressive state. And they can also have mixed episodes where they actually experience sort of all of that at the same time, which you can imagine how confusing that would be. And they can very, very quickly shift from from mania to depression. Their moods can shift very quickly. So what I have seen is clients, and this is people that I know personally as well, that actually have a fearful avoidant attachment style and a background of trauma, a lot of times have been misdiagnosed with bipolar. Or as being bipolar. And that makes sense if you think about it, because fearful avoidants typically have trauma in their background, and a lot of times they end up in situations or relationships that continue to be unsafe. They often end up with narcissists, with people who are abusive, and so they're constantly living in this state of fight or flight. And so when you are feeling safe and connected in that moment, when you're able to lean into your partner and you feel okay, or you're in the love bombing stage of, say, like a narcissist, then you typically will have an elevated mood. You will feel differently. And also when you're in fight or flight, you can have some of these similar experiences, versus when things are really bad, you're feeling very, very unsafe, you're in the bad or abusive part of the relationship, where you can go into these sort of depressive states. So I have seen many coaching clients and many individuals that are labeled with the diagnosis of bipolar, put on an antipsychotic medication with all of those side effects, that once they actually heal their insecure attachment, their fearful avoidant attachment, are perfectly fine and have none of those symptoms and do not need medication. I have seen the same with people who have been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. And if you understand sort of the characteristics of that, you can literally see how it directly ties to the description of a fearful avoidant. So people with BPD really are deep, deep, big feelers. They feel so much that they often show up in their emotion. They can be overreactive, and they feel almost too much for a lot of people around them. And so they really experience a lot of pain in relationships because they feel so big, so much of the time, so frequently, and other people around them can't meet them where they're at. And they really want somebody to be able to hold space for those big feelings. If you know anything about fearful avoidant attachment and you've seen any of my videos, this is a fearful avoidant. They struggle with these deep abandonment fears in the relationship. Again, fearful avoidant attachment. They struggle with extreme mood swings as well. So rage, anger, all of that. And that can come on for a fearful avoidant, as soon as their partner does something that triggers them to feel unsafe. Because they are hypervigilant, they are constantly scanning their environment and their partner for safety. And so swinging in and out of these emotions, they can be feeling great and connected 1 minute, and then their partner does something that alerts their nervous system. And all of a sudden they go into fight or flight, and usually it's fight for them. And so there's this wide range of emotions that swing even in one conversation. Again, that's fearful avoidant attachment. BPD is often characterized as being an emotional dysregulation disorder, which is what we do. Part of what we do to actually heal insecure attachment is actually learn to properly regulate our emotions. And so that comes from being in fight or flight and not being able to self-regulate, which is a very hard thing for a fearful avoidant to do. So I would encourage you, if you have either of these diagnoses, and they may be real, they may be accurate, they may perfectly apply to you, but if you are questioning this or you've taken any of this, one of the things that I think would be helpful is to actually work on healing your insecure attachment style first and work on earning secure attachment, because if it truly is an instance of fearful avoidance and you can do your work on your own without medication or without actually having to be on anti-anxiety medication, which often happens for BPD, which if we know anything about those kinds of medications, they help us to suppress our emotions and our anxiety, when truly to be healthy and safe in our own body, we need to actually face our anxieties, our insecurities. We need to be able to emotionally process and work those things out. Years and years and years of actually suppressing those does not heal our nervous system, and it does not let our brain know that we can be safe in our own body. So if you have any of these diagnoses and they don't feel right to you, or maybe you just want a little bit more information and want to dig a little bit more, this is something that I highly encourage. Again, this may be something that truly applies to you, and you may have an amazing psychiatrist who has properly diagnosed you, but I have seen over and over again where that is not the case. And a patient goes in, they spend a short amount of time with a psychiatrist, they are put on an antipsychotic medication or an anti-anxiety medication, and in reality, we really could heal this just by earning secure attachment. There's so many overlaps between these two disorders, in my personal opinion. That is not me as a psychiatrist, because I do not have a degree in that, but that is my personal opinion when it comes to the overlaps between that and fearful avoidant attachment.